Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The third race of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series is taking an already intense title fight to the streets of Detroit. The Grand Prix layout of Belle Isle has proven to test the precision of open-wheeled and sports car drivers for years as danger looms on each side of every corner. Chris Beets and Jesse Webb share the honors as race winners thus far in the season, but it is Beets who holds the points lead by a single marker. But this venue that is nestled within the Detroit River is a bit of a wild card on the calendar. The lone street race of 2021 and perhaps the best chance for Wittendorf, Hansen, and Jones to close the gap on the top two, while Nick Ledecky will attempt to grab the one that got away after crashing out of the lead at Road America 1 week ago. Who will ride off of Sunset Drive a winner at the conclusion of this Motor City Street Fight? Round 3 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series is next on Pit Stop TV. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Belle Isle circuit here on Pit Stop TV. I'm Eric Brennan. Absolute pleasure to be with you. A little bit late here on the East Coast, but we are just getting the party started for our West Coast competitors for their third race of the season. Emerson Arden's going to be pulling double duty with us once again. He's handling the production duties, and you'll also hear his voice in just a couple of moments as he will be joining me in the broadcast booth all night long. And Trey Shuttlesworth, who did a spectacular job getting everybody ready for tonight's contest with his press release that's up on Whiplash Media, is going to be handling our social media for the night as well. Now, speaking of social media, that's one of the best places to catch tonight's racing action, share tonight's racing action all across Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, as well as YouTube, Pit Stop TV, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a few moments. But first, we want to bring in Emerson Arden. And Emerson, we were talking before we went on air, this is one of our favorite series to cover across the platform, and there are a number of reasons why, but the competition, it's right there. The points separated by a single marker between the top two drivers, and this racetrack could probably offer up one of the most unpredictable results that we can expect to see as we take a look at those championship standings. Just 1 point separates the front runners, but there are a lot of heavy hitters up there as well, looking to try to get a little bit closer to the top of these championship standings.
Oh, for sure. And I know we're very early in the season, so one race can change it all. We saw Nick Ledecky, who had a stellar start at Road America last week. He came into Road America in the top 3 in points. Look at where he is now, 9th in points, 127 points back. So anything can and almost anything will happen when it comes to racing. And what more of a place to put that to the test than the Detroit Belle Isle street circuit? The only street circuit on the calendar today, or on the calendar this season, and it's quite a challenge. The characteristics of the track, the bumps and the tight corners just makes it such an insane challenge for these drivers, and it's going to be interesting to see how the points stack up when we head into next week's race at Spa. But taking a look at the points, of course, we just mentioned Chris Beets with a 1 point advantage over Jesse Webb. John Wittendorf in third, 59 back. James Hansen, fourth, 77 back. Curtis Jones, fifth, 87 back. And then it gets tight for sixth. James Allen there, 108 back. He's a 10 ahead of Chris Brunner, who's 118 back of the top spot. 125 back, we'll find BC Voigt. 127, of course, we just mentioned Nick Ledecky. And Corey Peters, 128 points back. Very tight for that sixth position. And there's going to be battles up and down the running order as we see most weeks. Now, how shaken up will they be at a track like Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit obviously is going to be a great test for these competitors. And, you know, we talk about the track, and we want to mention the top 10 you see there in points. They're all part of the pro category. Everybody's being tallied up the same. However, you have to go back to 11th spot, and that is where you would find Spencer Vick, who is the first of the amateur drivers. Only difference there is I-rating groupings at the series set to try to highlight some of the drivers who may not have as much experience. But with these top 10, they are proving why they are in the pro category, all 10 of them, flexing their muscle early in the season, and this track is going to further prove their driving abilities on the server. And speaking of the track, here's a good look at this layout here. And, you know, if you look at it on a map, it's right up there near the Canada border, and this seems to be one of those areas of Detroit in Michigan where it's pretty much one way in and one way out, very similar to what you have up at the road course in Montreal, Canada. And we mentioned Sunset Drive. That is the launch that you see down towards the start-finish line before they hit that hard right-hander at turn number one, not the best passing zone, especially because of how narrow the entry is there, because you're butted up against the pit exit wall as you approach the left-hander at turn 2. Then the long drive down Central Avenue to the right-hander at turn 3. That is where we may see most of our passing done today, before another right-hander at turn 4, quick left-handed kickback at 5, and another right-hander that leads you through a curved strand drive up to turn 7. Another opportunity to perhaps make a pass. Then we get through one of the most technical parts of the racetrack. Left-handers at 8, 9, 10. Before you hit another right-hander to get back on the strand drive. Easier for me to say second time around at turn 11. Another right-hander at turn 12. The last right-hander that you will get on the binders per se at turn 13. And then you're wide open back up to the start-finish line. And that is a lap around the Detroit Grand Prix circuit of Belle Isle, which again is the host of the third race of the 2021 season. The lone street race on the calendar, and as a matter of fact, this is the last traditional 60-minute race that we are going to have before our first endurance round of the championship at Spa next week. So this 60-minute affair on one of the more tough and technical tracks of the series is certainly going to provide a little bit of a better look or clearer window as to who may in fact be the championship favorites. We've got qualifying underway for the time being. As a matter of fact, we're about halfway through the qualifying session with a couple of familiar names up at the top of the timing and scoring charts. That would be the two drivers who share the front of the championship point standings. However, they've reciprocated their roles. But Everson, the big thing I'm noticing there is Jesse Webb is currently the quickest, and Chris Beats is second for the time being. 0.3 of a second. Webb has found something in this qualifying session. That is a target that is going to be hard to hit. Right now, the lap of record, 1 minute 28.022. He is in another zip code right now.
Yeah, and it really speaks volumes at a track that maybe you can't get around. Sure, that's great and all. Then it's hard to be fast. It's a difficult circuit as it is, but then to be fast at it is another thing, because from the map, and I guess on paper it is a bunch of straightaways and 90-degree corners, but then it's how hard you attack those corners and how much of a launch can you get out of these corners. And right here you're gonna watch Jesse Webb work through 4, 5, and 6. I think one of the most underrated sections of the course. This is a momentum killer or momentum gainer, really, because if you can get a good run through there, you set yourself up for this strand drive straightaway, which isn't really straight. It's a massive curving stretch of road, and then turn 7 is a very underrated corner. It is so difficult to get into this corner because you're not even braking in a straight line. So if you can be fast here, it really speaks volumes. And this is another tight section, and probably the trickiest corner right here is right after this little kink of turn 10. You're gonna be back hard on the brakes for turn 11 and a direct right hand corner after turning left out of a kink.
And as you can see, we got about 7.5 minutes to go in the session. As you can tell by looking at our timing and scoring ticker on the left-hand side of your screen, 34 cars have entered into tonight's contest. All but one was able to partake in the practice session that was held prior for about an hour and 40 minutes time. And they're all vying for the lap of record that Jesse Webb set early on in this session. And we're talking about how tight the field was expected to be as he's navigating his way around a car that is coming out of the pit area. But if you look at from second all the way back to 10th, I mean, you're talking a little bit more, a little bit less than half second separating the rest of the top 10, excluding that of Jesse Webb, who's found something early in this session with Beats in the runner-up position. And here's a driver who's certainly trying to find his groove. Mikel Ruderbusch really has had some up and down so far to start off 2021. Ruderbusch, who is currently on the pit lane, you see him there third in the session thus far. Ruderbusch was one of the front runners a year back. As a matter of fact, he was considered to be one of the cleanest drivers in the series, but bad luck has buried Ruderbusch down in 27th place in the championship standings, and he's a driver who carries a pro banner under his name when the championship points are tallied. So it shows that he does have all that it takes to get the job done, and I bet he is thrilled with where he sits right now in this session, because it may be his best opportunity at a solid finish, which he's proven to have the pace, just not really the luck after incidents at both Donington Park and Road America. And it's Ruderbusch who rounds out your top 3 with under 6 minutes to go.
And then let's take a look a little bit further on down the running order. We'll stay in the top 10 here with Sarah Rabb in 4th after being in the thick of the midfield battle last week, and then having the the accident on the front straightaway with Trevor Anderson and the lapped vehicle not getting the best of finishes she wanted at Road America. A way to bounce back would be a great starting position at Detroit to stay in front of most of the trouble. Most of the trouble is going to happen in the heart of the pack, that's for sure. But then you say that and you look at the times, as you alluded to, within half a second throughout most of the top 10, it is going to be absolutely insane. It's going to be clawing for positions with Lubenow, Hansen, Brunnemer, Gergis, Lowry, and Anderson now just moves into the top 10. This is going to be a stellar start to the race.
Yeah, and I will tell you one bit of news that came out a little bit earlier today. The prize packages for this season was released by series organizers, and I'll tell you what, as if these drivers didn't have enough incentive to try to go out there and beat one another, here's a little bit more. For the Pro Class, they're going to be vying for an $85 prize plus 3 liveries from Sarah Rabb, who is one of the presenting sponsors on the series side of the platform for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and that's a great initiative by Sarah Rabb. You see her there on your screen, so she's offered up some additional content to the eventual champion of the Pro Class, while second place will get $65 and third place in the overall championships for the pros will get $40 cash. Now for the amateurs, it's a $20 gift card to the Pacific's the PSRC web store, and 3 liveries from Sarah Rabb as well. Runner-up will get a $20 gift card to the PSRC web store, and a $10 gift card to the PSRC web store will go to the driver who finishes third in the amateur class. They also have season prizes like most improved, most positions gained, cleanest driver, and they're all going to get a free livery from Tam Livery, who's another presenting sponsor of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And there are other incentives that are available as well, all the way from 4th to 21st, 22nd to 44th. They have additional prize values that are kind of trickled all the way throughout the running order and the points, and that's a great incentive by the series, and everybody stepped up big time as far as the league sponsors are considered, with 3.5 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. We mentioned Tam Liveries by Sarah Rabb. We also want to shout out Benke Cinematography, as Damian Benke, who is the man behind Benke Cinematography, and he provides the most realistic photographs that you could find on iRacing. All 3 of those businesses stepping up and supporting the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series for what's been an exciting 2 races so far. We expect more tonight in race 3 at Belle Isle, as these drivers are running out of time to lay down a flyer and climb themselves further up the running order. I'll tell you what, Emerson, how about Sarah Rabb up to 4th in this session?
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if you can start up front. And she just puts it into the barrier there, but nothing shy of that 4th place running right now in qualifying. If you can start ahead of that trouble, it's going to mean big time, and a 4th place starting position can do wonders. Anywhere near the front, if you can just put yourself in position to stay with the front runners, you have a shot. And it's very doable when you start up front. It's a little bit harder when you're starting from the back. You have to make your way through the pack, and most likely have to work your way through trouble, and then have the pace to catch up. But starting up front will definitely help a lot in aiding you to a good finish.
So the way things stand right now, with 2 minutes to go, it's Jesse Webb, the provisional pole sitter, with Chris Beed second, Mikkel Rudebusch still holding on to third, Sarah Rabb with an impressive 4th, and Brady Lubenow, your top 5. Then you have to go back to James Hansen, who's in the top 5 in championship points, currently 6th in the running order. Jackson Lowry, 7th. Chris Brunnemer, who got on track late in this session, you see him here in car number 2, working the Audi here through the technical part of the racetrack, currently scored in 8th spot. He too trying to battle back after some misfortune that plagued him at the season opener in Donington. Currently sitting now back in the 9th spot, as we've had another driver crack the top 10, and that's going to kick Trevor Anderson to the bottom portion of the top 10 for now, with 1.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, I'm just looking at timing and scoring of how many intervals between each of the driver in front, with so many drivers with 0.0 in their interval. It is absolutely insane. I mean, I'm excited for the start. It is going to be tooth and nail working their way through a very tight and technical street circuit here in Detroit.
where danger is looming on both sides of every corner, with the concrete barriers ready to strike any driver who is overstep or to overstep their boundaries. And so far, we've seen a number of drivers with a little bit of a hiccup or a mistake and wash out a little bit wide and catch some of the concrete, but no harm, no foul. They could reset, jump back to the pit area, and give it another go. That is not going to be the case in less than 30 seconds time, as Chris Beets is trying to improve on the lap time as he comes through the final corner and back up on towards the main straightaway. And again, Beets needs to find about 0.3 of a second as you're on board with him, and this just gives you a little bit of an idea as to how daunting those outside and inside retaining walls can be. A little bit of grass area there through turn 2 on driver's left, but then it's back to just concrete on both sides, as well as what you're racing on and over on the pavement. And we'll watch him here as he approaches this hard-braking right-hander with the tire wall there, ready to catch any competitor who may send it in just a little bit too hard. This is going to be Beets' final lap, thus final opportunity to claim pole from Jesse Webb, as well as any driver who got back to the start-finish line prior to the clock expiring. And it is Beets with a half lap to go before he sees this session come to a close.
Yeah, Chris Beets now working his way down Strand Drive. Had a pretty good warm-up lap, just trying to get to the start-finish line to start another lap. But here he goes into turn 7. Gonna be nice and tidy through this section, very tight and technical section. And this is really gonna set yourself up for a bunch of 9-degree corners that lead you to Sunset Drive. Here we go through 9, the kink of 10, and then a hard right-hander turn 11. I say that wasn't too bad. We'll see what he can do coming around here down to turn 12.
Again, it's the last chance that Beets has to try to overtake the lap time that was set by Webb. And, oh, you can see he's pushing hard there. Slid the back tires big time as he came there. And it looked as though he knew it wasn't going to be enough. He's going to give up the ghost to come to the pit area. So we will wait for the last few cars to come to the line. As right now, Jesse Webb's lap time of about a 1 minute 28.022. It appears safe for the time being. Alan Roth trying to come down to the checkered flag. Alan Roth usually has a bit of a fan club watching some of these races. Want to say hello to all of them who may be watching, as Roth is now trying to improve on his lap of record. Right now, he sits about 19th in the session. And one of the last few cars to come through here for the checkered flag.
I think qualifying is coming to a close here. This is Gavin Cohn. He does not look like he's on a flyer, and runoff time is ticking down slowly, and he's heading to the pit lane. So it will be Jesse Webb starting from the pole at Detroit, which is a blessing in a sense, because you get to be in front of the trouble, but you have to be you have to stay in front of that trouble, and there's gonna be a lot of hungry people vying for that race lead off this start.
Well, as the field begins to stage up on the back straightaway, let's look at the starting lineup for round number 3 in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series with Jesse Webb on pole, Chris Beets alongside. Top 2 in the championship, top 2 in qualifying. Mikkel Rudebusch finally starts up towards the front, and James Hansen, who actually was able to jump up and grab 3rd. It's going to be Rudebusch to the outside at 4th. Then we drop back to Sarah Rabb with a top 5 qualifying effort, and Brady Lubenow takes you to 6th. 7th spot is going to be Christian Gerges in the 151 car outside Jackson Lowry in 8th. And rounding out your top 10 for this race here in Belle Isle, Chris Brunnemer in 9th, and Trevor Anderson, your top 10.
We file back to the next 10. It'll be Wade Hayes in 11, and to his outside will be Tyler Campbell making up row 6. See if we can find it again. There you go. Row 7, we'll find Curtis Jones and Spencer Vick. Row number 8, Sven Hartman, Corey Peters. Row number 9, Alexander King, Ryan Coulter. And row number 10, Alan Roth, Alex Treber.
Take it a little bit further back. 21st going to be BC Boyd and Mick Blue in 22nd spot. Taking you back to now inside of the 23rd position is going to be Jimmy Allen and Justin Mikayla in the 166 starting in 24. 25th, Gavin Cohn, and 26 is going to be George Patek. in the 128 car. Deeply stacked field sees Tyler Langenberg in the 191 and 27th, outside David Flanagan in 28th spot. Rounding out the 15th row is going to be Michael Della Sala and John McClintock in the 123 in 30th.
And we're going to rapid fire these final rows because the pace car is pulling off. Scott Snyder, Patrick Herring make up row 16. Randall Ayers, Jason Frisk, row 17. And that'll do it. That 34 runners for today's race. Chris Beats will be starting second to Jesse Webb, our point leader, separated by 1 point on the front row as they work their way down Sunset Drive.
And we're going to watch as the pace car heads to the pit lane hard right there on that narrow pit entryway that these drivers are going to have to navigate at least once here today. Who's going to come out on top of this Detroit street fight? We're about to find out. We are underway for race 3 of 2021, and it's the pole sitter Jesse Webb getting the jump while the field quickly tries to funnel in single file. So far, everybody appears to be pointed in the right direction, evenly spaced throughout the front runners as they are approaching the hard-braking right-hander that's just up ahead here at turn 3.
Looks like all is well as we work our way through turn 3. Bravo to the field for keeping it nice and tidy for now, but we still have a long lap to go, and a lot of action is in the wings of this race. Jesse Webb up to a 4/10 of a second lead. He's going to try to leg Chris Beats down Strand Drive, but Chris Beats will have the slipstream. We'll see if we can keep in touch with Jesse Webb.
Last week at Road America, we saw the leader at the time in Ledecky, who is evidently not in the field here tonight. One of the other rookies and newcomers in the field. We saw him get out to a pretty healthy lead, only to make a mistake working his way down through a latter portion of the race. So the margin between first and second may be indicative of strength at one point in this race, but right now it appears as though that Beats is not letting Webb open up too big of an advantage as we look back here to that margin to the runner-up in Beats. About 3/4 of a second as they come down to complete lap number 1. Average lap times have been just shy of a minute and a half. So in this 60-minute affair with one expected pit stop, and pit strategy is going to be ultra important as well, especially with 34 cars in this race. We can expect that to be a factor, as it looked as though Sarah Rabb might have bumped the wall a little bit there on the right side coming through turn 2. Lost a little bit of momentum there, maybe under fire from Brady Lubenow rather shortly. But so far, everybody minding their P's and Q's as you see Rabb here trying to hold on to that 5th position, with Lubenow starting to close in the Audi about 2 car lengths back through the right-hander.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little surprised that we didn't have any real trouble on the first lap just because of how difficult this track is. Nothing against the field. I think it speaks volumes to this field to work through in such a tightly contested field. 34 sports cars working their way through the tight and twisting streets of Detroit and no problems in the first lap. I am very impressed with that start.
One of the most impressive things to me, outside looking in, about the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series is the set of standards that series organizers have set forth, including that of experience and I-rating. And, you know, we wonder why. Why would they want to be so strict and so straightforward about the type of drivers competing in their series? And the answer is right here, what we're seeing right now as we drop back to a battle just outside the top 10 as Wade Hayes is trying to fend off a challenge from one of the drivers who finds himself higher up in the championship standings, and Curtis Jones, who is top 5. This is a race for about 12th on back. Also, we have that looks to be Spencer Vick in this fight, just up ahead. But it's Hayes 13, Jones just behind in car number 9. It's one of the best races that we have going on for the moment. But point being is that the reason why the series organizers want to be so stringent as far as who competes, and they have a very heavily regulated penalty point system that they go back, they review incidents, they review mistakes that may have been made, and they do have a direct effect on the championship because they want everyone to know that whoever comes out on top in this championship, when we're done with all 10 rounds, truly earned this thing through and through. through and didn't just happen to luck their way into it or bang their way into it. And it's kind of proving to provide some of the best competitive road course and sports car racing that you could find on the platform. We drop back here to Corey Peters in the 16th spot. Sven Hartman's just up ahead, and one of the drivers who's trying to battle back from an up and down weekend at Road America last week, Alexander King, also trying to make up some ground. And Emerson, I understand that we're 5 minutes into this race, still a long way to go. We mentioned everybody being patient, but I have to wonder, Belle Isle is a very hard track to pass on. At what point does that patience perhaps start to wear thin, especially if you're somebody like these drivers flirting with pretty much the bottom portion of the top 20?
I think the intensity is most rampant in this midfield because the positions are widely available right in front of you if you can get up there and take them. And I think it's kind of just like dangling food in front of a hungry animal. These drivers are going to want these spots for each point they can earn, and the aggression will come up as we get later into this race. Maybe not before pit stops, but once we have that pit stop and once the battles, I think, are most secured, I think that's when the aggression will be most at the highest level. But we can definitely see some maybe even heading into pit stops now that I think about it, because maybe drivers want to set themselves up better for the outcome of their pit stop.
Yeah, I was starting to see at the end of some of these long straightaways, particularly up Central Avenue down to turn number 3, the right-hander, as the field is now working the far side of the course. But starting to see some of these drivers. We'll see if Chris Brunnemer elects to do it here on the front straightaway. He's going to be coming up to here rather quickly as he navigates his way through turns 9, 10, and the right-hander at turn 11 is what lies ahead. We're looking back now from Jackson Lowry. And we'll see if Brunnemer is going to elect to kind of pull out, try to fill that mirror. Just kind of let Lowry know that he's there. He may not have to pull out, though, and fill up that mirror, because I think Lowry can not only feel him, but hear him. That's how close Brunnemer was there through the corner. Lowry's able to pull him back up off of turn 12. Through the kink at 13, now up on the 14 and past the start-finish line, with Brunnemer trying to close back in. But starting to see some drivers elect to pull out and just kind of hint at maybe sailing it off in there to try to pull out and make a pass. But I have not seen that many drivers been able to pull off a move just yet. As a matter of fact, perhaps the most interesting stat that we have to offer up, the entire top 10 in this race, about 7 minutes in, is running in the same exact spot in which they qualified. So no position changes thus far in the top 10. As a matter of fact, even if you go back to the top 20, it's plus or minus 1 at most. So we have not seen any shuffling happen just yet. And a lot of that is perhaps due to how clean the start of this race has been. But Curtis Jones has his hands full right now with Sven Hartman.
Yeah, he actually just got past Sven Hartman, but we'll see if Hartman has any run back down Strand Drive, or if Curtis Jones just needed to get around Sven Hartman to really set himself up for the rest of this 1 hour affair with just under 53 minutes left in this race.
So this is one of the best battles we have on track right now, with Jones, as we mentioned, one of the front runners coming into the championship. In fact, he's 5th in the standings coming into Belle Isle. And Sven Hartman's trying to make up some ground. He finds himself a little bit further back in the championship standings, but also looking for a solid top 10 result and a solid effort, perhaps, if he could maybe work the pit strategy. And that's something that we talk about a lot on these GT3 events, is pit strategy. And I don't know if we have seen anybody perfect the right way to go about some of these pit stops. We usually see some drivers try to pull an undercut and, maybe come in a little bit early and stretch the fuel on the latter portion of the race, or the overcut by allowing some of the drivers to come in early, maybe come out and get stuck behind some slower cars. And there really hasn't been a perfect strategy or a perfect avenue to take when it comes towards some of these racing events. Granted, it's going to vary by track and track length and nature of the event as it unfolds, but I'm curious as to what may happen here, especially being that everybody appears to be so congested throughout the field. I mean, even at the front of the pack, we're looking at still a half-second advantage from the leader in Webb back to Beat. So, nobody being able to break away, nobody being able to get out in any form of clean air or clean racetrack and just simply focus on laying down flyers, I think that's going to want some of these drivers to do all that they can to get some clear track ahead, and maybe then they'll be able to pick up some time that will then correlate to advances in positions. But right now, the field's running pretty tight, and it's evident here at the head of the pack.
Well, I think when it comes to pit strategy, let's remember it's still a young season, and these drivers, this series has undergone a fuel limit change, and we saw last season as well. When the season started, last season they ran 60% fuel limits. So, and this season they're running 70% fuel limits, so they can go a little bit longer. But last season, we saw the strategy kind of be all over in the place until about the halfway mark, and then those final 5 races or so, we saw the drivers start to become more uniform in their strategy, with very few drivers taking chances with fuel. And I think that's the same thing happening here. We're only on race 3 of the season. Drivers are still kind of experimenting to see where the advantages can be found, if there is advantages to be found in their 70% fuel loads. And it's going to be different because we'll have endurance races and other races to kind of throw into the mix as well, and it'll take a little bit longer for these drivers, I think, to perfect what is the optimal strategy on the 70% fuel. And by the way, it can be different on your scenario. You also just have to know where you're going to come out in. Are you going to come out in traffic or clean air? Tires are not a factor, but it all comes down to fuel and how the car feels to you, and what are you going to be able to do with the car once you come off the pit lane.
So as we see there, also a little bit of gamesmanship already perhaps taking place, as we saw Beats bob and weave just a little bit there as they came down towards turn number 3 a lap ago, maybe trying to just fill up the mirrors on Webb a little bit. They're back up here heading towards the main straightaway at full song as we look back from the backside of Jesse Webb of the Audi, looking at Beats, who again came into this race with a 1-point advantage in the championship lead. Webb trying to be the first driver to get to 2 victories on the season, thus being able to take that points lead back. But if you look back to third, James Hansen is hanging right there with him. Only a 1.5 seconds back is Hansen in car number 1. And he's starting to close up here on these front 2. And not quite sure if either of these competitors may be saving something here early in the going, or if they're just trying to learn from their competitors, or when they may turn up the heat a little bit up front. But Beats and Hansen are certainly keeping Jesse Webb honest. After Webb ended up taking pole by over 0.3 seconds in qualifying, he has not been able to match the pace, at least to the point where it's that much more consistent over the rest of his competitors. And believe it or not, he's also not really in danger of closing up on some lap traffic just yet. So far, still clear track ahead, despite what we anticipated to be a chaotic start. But so far, the tail end of the pack is still a ways away for Webb, and that may be bad news for Beats, as traffic may be what he's looking for, but Hansen's certainly starting to close up here, and you got to go back to Randall Ayers, who's pretty much leading up the tail end of the field for the time being, and it's Ayers who is just now coming down towards, looks like the far side of the track. The leaders here are about wide open through this right-handed section and back to the start-finish line.
Yeah, I do. I think it's just how much there is to this track. I think it's a little bit different. But I think Road America, it's a lot of straightaways. So if you get a good exit out of one of the tight corners at Road America, you have all that straightaway to gap your competitor behind you if they didn't get as good of a corner exit. But here, if you do that, the advantage isn't long lasting. There is not that long of a straightaway other than Central Avenue and maybe Strand Drive. And even then, it's so hard to get a good run out of them, because right there, you have to go through 3, 4, 5, and 6 to get a run out of turn 6 for Strand Drive, and turns 1 and 2 is a very difficult complex as well to get a run onto Central Avenue. So I don't think these drivers are able to get as big of an advantage with their corner exits as they are at like Road America. And I don't know, Jesse Webb was something else at Donington. He had the entire field on lockdown at Donington. I think that may be just an outlier. As far as lap traffic, I can't recall who it was, but I know it was our third place finisher last week had mentioned that he is not ready to encounter lap traffic. He was not thrilled about it. And I know we're 15 minutes into this race, so lap traffic is, I don't know, where Randall Ayers is in comparison to Jesse Webb. I can't see lap traffic being a factor for at least the next 10 minutes, but then on we may be talking a different tune.
Do a little bit of housekeeping here while we can. It does look like that Michael De La Sala not only went a lap down, but has retired from the race, but that is of no factor to that of your race leaders. As Emerson Arden was just mentioning, looks as though that the leader is not going to embark on lap traffic for quite some time. That is barring any sort of incidents throughout the rest of the pack. But we do have some battles starting to take shape here in the top 10. Here's Jackson Lowry under a bit of fire here as they come through the corner. Chris Brunnemer is looking to take over a spot. This was just as we were about to mention that the top 10 had not changed position since the drop of the green flag. Well, that may be out the window here as Brunnemer was able to get around Jackson Lowry. Now he's going to try to pull up on the back of Christian Gerges, who holds down the 7th spot. So Brunnemer +1 from where he started after he's another competitor who is also on a bit of a comeback trail. He was involved in a very heavy crash at Donington Park. One of the returning veterans of the GT3 Series with the Pacific Challenge is Brunnemer. Was a front runner in points when they closed out their last season of competition in 2020. One of the returning drivers, one of the 9 of the top 10 veterans that came on the scene. We were talking all about the newcomers and the rookies to the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. Brunnemer, the returning veteran, and after a 24th place finish following an accident late in the going at Donington Park, it's Brunnemer who is motivated, got the bit between his teeth, and is one of the first drivers to make a move forward in the top 10, and he may not be done yet. He's looking for more.
Yeah, Brunnemer is hungry after that not so optimal start to his season. He is going to be absolutely on it to try to maximize the result he can get out of this season. And it's still a very young season when I say that. I say it again. We're only on race 3, and we have an endurance race next week, and this season still has a lot to encounter before we can even really be talking about what the outlook of what it can be. But yeah, Brunnemer, with what happened at Donington, he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to make as many spots up as he can each week, and he is really hounding Gerges down Strand Drive. He's not closing up as much as we thought he would with the slipstream, but into turn 7, he's gonna just hound Gerges until he can maybe get an advantage elsewhere and maybe force Gerges into a mistake. We'll see, but this is just top driving from all 4 of these drivers in just heavy battle.
And we saw as they came through turn 7, the left-hander, that's where one of those really big sets of curbs are. Not just the curbing that they lean on that protects some of the runoff grass area that just offers you a little bit of oops room if you were to have a bit of a mistake before you catch some concrete. But turn 7 is one of those areas where if you hit that curbing a little bit too much with the right side of that race car, it could upset the vehicle enough to cause you a problem without contact. And at that point, Gerges appeared to hit it just right, didn't lose too much time to the driver that is pursuing in Brunnemer, and this battle for 7th and 8th respectively will continue on. Emerson and I have been talking about Donington Park, Road America. That, of course, were the 2 races that kicked off the start of this season, and I can't help but think that Donington Park may be the closest resemblance on the calendar to what we're going to see here today, especially in terms of lap traffic. Relatively narrow track, maybe not as unforgiving as a street circuit as what we see here at Belle Isle, but it certainly is a bit of circumstance as far as, you know, you have to be certain when you're going to try to overtake some competitors who may not be on the same pace or strategy as you. And that may be the one bit that we could foreshadow seeing how things unfold here today. We did see it catch some of the top 10 off guard back at Donington, as you see the field come through turn 7 once again. So we may have a little bit of a ways to go, though, as we are inching closer to about 20 minutes into this 60-minute affair, with Jesse Webb having led every lap since the drop of the green flag. Beats has fallen back now to a 2.5 seconds behind, with James Hansen running in 3rd. Mikkel Ruderbusch continues to ride in 4th, where he rolled off, and Sarah Rapp continues to round out your top 5, as those positions remain unchanged for the time being, as we have been relatively clean since the drop of the green silk, and it has been all Jesse Webb since the word go.
Well, I have to say, Alan Roth is on the pit lane, and he has some damage. If we get a replay, it's gonna take a minute, but I'll try to get one for the Alan Roth fans to at least know what had happened with Alan. Let's see if we can figure it out. So yeah, this is a while back.
So we're following Alan Roth here. This is coming up on to the straightaway. Looks as though that the incident may have taken place already at that point. Roth, one of the drivers racing for the in one of the BMWs in the field. And I will tell everybody who may be watching across the Pit Stop TV platforms, when the race is over, I often elect to go back and try to review and see see how we did on the night's broadcast. But along the way, I love to see how many friends, family, supporters chime in on the chat via YouTube or Facebook. And Alan Roth has got some form of a fan club out there, and it's incredible. So hopefully Alan's able to get that car repaired and rejoin. Right now he's showing 2 laps down, but still on the server. And we'll see if something ended up happening. As a matter of fact, Trey Shuttlesworth, who is handling our socials, says that he may have in fact had to step away momentarily, but we'll see how that ends up panning out for Alan Roth. Tough break for him. And we also mentioned a short while earlier that Michael Della Sala did retire from the event about 5 laps back after he must have had some problems as well. We still have 32 cars on the racetrack on the lead lap. All chasing Jesse Webb, with Beat still riding in second, and we're going to start to enter in some of that area where pit stops may be possible, but probably not probable, especially if you want to hit about the halfway point or perhaps go a little bit later, try to time a short fill, and then leapfrog some of the competition in a race which has been rather impressive. I think Emerson and I can both agree we thought it was going to be a little bit chaotic, perhaps some carnage to kick things off, and we've been clean since the drop of the green for the most part, and that's allowed the running orders to remain for the relatively unchanged. Not a lot of big movers, not a lot of big losers so far. As a matter of fact, as I look through some of the timing and scoring results here, we did mention Brunnemer, only driver in the top 10 to gain a position as of right now. We also have Alexander King, who's picked up 2 spots since the drop of the green flag. But I will say the biggest mover so far looks to be that of Jimmy Allen, who went from 23rd to 18th since we went green. And also Justin McKyle has picked up 4 spots as well, as has Gavin Cohn. Some of those, though, due to the problems that we saw, Michael Della Sala and Alan Roth have. But everybody kind of minding their matters for the most part as we inch closer to halfway. And Jesse Webb is starting to see for the first time tonight another vehicle up ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to mention, this is George Patek. It's going to be the first lap car that Jesse Webb encounters on track. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the leaders do when they come through lap traffic. They're going to be at a little bit of a pace difference on a track that is very, very difficult to pass. We see it very difficult to pass amongst the competitors in the midfield. So we'll see what kind of a move Webb is going to put on Patek. But he is on the flashers trying to get Patek out of the way, and Patek will move out of the way, but Webb will lose about half a second just trying to be courteous to the lap car.
And that's something to consider, Emerson. We look at that, and we saw Webb do everything he needed. Warned Patek up ahead that he was coming by the use of the headlights on that car. However, when you're one of those lap vehicles or drivers who may not be up to speed as some of the competitors that are going to try to find a way around, as Beats is offering up the same warning to Patek towards turn 1. But if you try to give way a little bit too much, we're at that point in the race where you're going to have some marbles starting to develop offline, as Beats nearly scrubbed the wall there off of 2. He's now looking to get clear and inside and pass. But, this is a place where if you're lap traffic and you're attempting to be courteous to the leaders, you could put yourself in a pretty bad spot and wash offline a little bit too much and catch yourself into the wall and then create a very precarious position for the rest of the competition. So far, though, Patek has been doing everything right to give way to some of the competitors. It's going to be Mikkel Ruderbusch who is next to get by, followed by Sarah Rabb and Brady Lubenow. But lap traffic, it may seem like you just have to give way. And it looks as though we've started to see some incidents here. And that is a driver who is running up in the top 10, and Christian Gerges, who has some damage to the front end of that car.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a replay here. This might take a second. Here we go. Let's see if we can find it. Uh-oh. Might have found it here. Let's see. Oh no. This happened a little bit before, but Gerges has some suspension damage. Wow, really struggling there. Let's see. Can find it a little earlier in the lap for Christian Gerges. Wow, this must have happened really early, but all right, well, we'll get back to the live action, but nonetheless, huge problems for Christian Gerges right off the who was running up in the top 10. We'll go back to the live action up front with Jesse Webb still out in front by 2.3 seconds.
So Gerges, who was running up into the top 10, having some problems, and I understand wholeheartedly his desire to try to drive it back to the pit area. You don't want to lose time by having to get a tow and trying to get it back there. And unfortunately, it was ping-ponging off the concrete to get it there. There was so much damage done to that car, but what a heartbreaker for Gerges, who appeared to potentially be on his way to a top 10 finish, as Sarah Rabb is starting to apply some pressure now to Mikkel Ruderbusch in what's going to be a race for fourth. This is coming through turn 9 up ahead, the left-hander, followed by a sweeping turn 10 here, another left-hander, and then a hard right-handed braking corner at turn 11 before they're pretty much mostly on the throttle here. Up to the right-hander at turn 12, a quick stab of the brakes there to come through that sweeping right-handed corner, and then 13 and 14 back up onto the main straightaway with Brady Lubenow not that far behind, with Rabb in the middle of that sandwich, trying to pick up another position. We're approaching the halfway point in round number 3 of 10 in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV. I'm Eric Brennan. Emerson Arden, not only working the duties in the control room on the production side, showing us all the incredible action, but also he's the second voice you hear on our broadcast. And Trey Shuttlesworth doing a spectacular job not only on social media, but also pitching little bits of information across us that he's able to pick up while observing the race from his point of view. So that's our crew here tonight on Pit Stop TV. And before we get into our window for pit stops to take place in this race, we want to offer up an opportunity and thank a lot of the presenting sponsors that we have to help make this level of coverage possible. While Jesse Webb continues to lead by about 3 seconds, we want to first take an opportunity to thank our friends at Tucson Sound Art. And you can take your picture and your music. We mentioned all the livery sponsors that the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series has. Well, if one of them paint you up a beautiful looking livery for your race car, you can use that as the backdrop for your photo. Send it over to our friends at Tucson Sound Art. They will provide you a custom built canvas with a Bluetooth built-in speaker, and you will have the best of both worlds. Your picture, your music. And here's the kicker. They are such supporters of us here at Pit Stop TV. If you use the promo code PITSTOPTV, all one word, at checkout, you will receive 10% off your purchase. Head on over to TucsonSoundArt.com for more. We also want to thank Permanent Makeup in Maine, because when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, owned by Ashley Bowyer, who is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. My wife and I are preparing for our wedding reception, a year removed thanks to COVID. We went ahead and got married. We want to party safely a little bit later, and she's looking at potential options, and Ashley Bowyer is the one that you want to contact if you want to make sure you look your absolute best, whether it be on your big day or any day. Contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com, or check them out on social media, especially because they have monthly giveaways on their Facebook pages. And who knows, all you have to do is head on over, give them a like, enter one of their contests, and you may in fact be a winner. That's permanentmakeupinmaine.com for more. And lastly, of course, we want to thank our parent company here at Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media. And we mentioned earlier Trey Shuttlesworth, who's with us on the socials. He put together a beautiful pre-race lead-in and press release that told you everything you needed to know about the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. First off, thank you for that, Trey. But it should be no surprise, because that's the type of dedication and work ethic that everybody puts into Whiplash Media. Not only do they specialize in various sim racing resources, from paint schemes, stream overlays, the camera packs you see in use tonight, and so much more. They also have their presence in the real world of racing as well, and they have services available such as photography, social media management, as well as public relations. The website is whiplash-media.com to learn more, and it's because of those presenting sponsors that we're all able to come out, whether it be a little bit late night here on the East Coast or prime time on the West Coast or wherever you may be throughout the country or world, and put on these races like we have with the ultra competitive Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And just like that, we are 1 minute away from the halfway point. No changes up towards the front. As a matter of fact, no changes throughout most of the top 10. We still see Jesse Webb ahead of Chris Beets. As a matter of fact, Webb has been able to increase that lead over Beets, but the lap traffic is starting to become a little bit more of a common factor, and that may be what Beets needs in order to close up this deficit that continues to grow as we hit halfway.
Yeah, you have to wonder if lap traffic starts to become a big factor for Jesse Webb. Does he consider maybe pitting earlier to just try to get out of that traffic and maybe put Beets in some traffic, or force Beets' hand to pit as well? Maybe when he's not fully ready to pit as well. I don't know. We'll see as Jesse Webb will cross the line with 8 seconds shy of halfway here at Detroit Belle Isle, and he's driven a phenomenal race. Earlier, I thought it was going to be hard for him to pull away in 3 seconds. I mean, it's not a lot, but at a street course that is so hard to leg somebody, as we mentioned earlier, that is a lot.
Yeah, especially considering that things have been as clean as they have been as we eclipse the halfway point here. A couple of drivers who did have some problems. We mentioned Michael De La Sala, Alan Roth, who also had to step aside, I believe, for the time being. Alex Trevor retired from the session. We saw Scott Snyder have an issue. Christian Gerges also with some problems. Tyler Langenberg with some trouble. There is Langenberg on the pit lane as well. Justin Michaela just pulled off. As a matter of fact, he retired from the race for the time being. And we saw George Takek go a lap down early in the event. Happy to see Alan Roth back out and competing there in the BMW, trying to make up some opportunities as some of his competitors start to fall by the wayside. Despite being about 8 laps down, he still has plenty of opportunity to pick up some positions in the running order here as we hit this second half of this race here in Belle Isle. We mentioned this, the third race of 10 on the season. Next week, we're going to be at Spa-Francorchamps for the first of 3 endurance races on the calendar. Then we head off to Imola on February 1st for a unique race there at that historic Grand Prix event. We then come back to the quadrant of the country, which many of these drivers represent up the Pacific Northwest, WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. Then we also have the Nürburgring Combined Circuit. That'll be our second endurance event on the calendar. And then we're going to have another endurance race at Sebring International Raceway, the same circuit in which the IndyCar competitors were out testing on just earlier this evening. And our final 2 races are going to be at 2 of the most challenging tracks and 2 of the most unique tracks that you could find, especially in a GT3 car. Phillip Island Circuit on March 1st, and we're going to wrap things up March 8th at the Suzuka International Racing Course, the Grand Prix layout, to crown our champion as part of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And it has been an incredible start to the season. We expect that to continue, especially with that slate of venues on the docket as we start to see the fight for second materialize, with Hansen closing up on Beets, particularly under braking as they come through 7.
Yeah, this has been a battle we kept our eyes on a little bit. It hasn't materialized up until now, and we'll see if this can stick through pit stops. As far as next week goes with Spa and the upcoming endurance races, I'm going to be very interested to see with how clean these sprint races have been. What are we going to see at an endurance race? I figured it's still going to be clean, but will the aggression still be the same? Will the battles still be as intense as they are? Or would they be even more intense because maybe an endurance race means more to some drivers? We'll see next week at Spa, I guess.
And I will say that coming into tonight's racing event, I was completely wrong in what I thought we were going to see. I thought it was going to be physical, chaotic, perhaps a little bit turbulent for some of the drivers as Brady Lubenow is looking to try to make something happen here with a lap car. Actually, I misspoke there. It looks as though that is a race for position there. with Sarah Rabb that Lubenow was trying to get by. Lubenow appears to be the car on the move. Rudebusch dropped 2 spots. Rabb back to where she started in 5th, but it's Lubenow, who did show a flash of brilliance in the qualifying session relatively early, who has now picked up 2 positions and appears to be getting faster in that Audi as this race goes on. The problem is he's got to make up about 4 seconds to get to the podium, but pit strategy may be in his favor, as well as clear racetrack. Not that much lap traffic up ahead of him, and the leaders may be mired in some heavy traffic here in the not-too-distant future if they were to elect to stay on the racetrack. But a strong climb for Lubenow, who's been pretty much at this point of the running order about 4th to 6th all race long.
Yeah, for sure. And I think lap traffic will be a big factor when it comes to Lubenow trying to close that gap. And here's why: lap traffic, they're going to tend to run their race, of course, the entire time. But when they're battling the leader, depending on the cars, maybe some just know that there's no chance that they're going to fend off the leader and they'll give it up. But most of the time, it's not necessarily frowned upon to battle the leader if you're trying to stay on the lead lap, because of course, you know, that is huge to your race. Now, once you get passed by the leader, there's not much of a point for you to battle with the 2nd place driver and the 3rd place driver. So with the front runners encountering lap traffic, that'll split up the lap traffic a little bit more. And then Lubenow should also have an easier time, relatively easier time. It's going to be a rough time no matter what at Detroit, but an easier time working through the lap traffic than, say, Webb. And well, I know Beats is now 3.5 seconds behind Webb, but maybe Beats and Hansen with their battle will split up some lap traffic as well, and Lubenow can use that to his advantage to try to catch up. But with 24.5 minutes remaining, he's going to have some lap traffic go his way, pit strategy go his way, and maybe some other luck to fall his way for him to get a podium at this moment.
And one would think that if Webb is going to run into lap traffic in the not-too-distant future, which, you know, even though we keep continuing to harp on the fact that it may be a possibility, you know, you figure they're averaging about 1.5 minutes to get around this racetrack. He's still got about 15 seconds till he catches the next car to put a lap down, which is going to be Patrick Herring, who is in 24th position, about 1 minute and 15 seconds off the leaders is that of Herring. There you see him on your screen. So, we keep talking about, you know, that lap traffic could be a big deal, and I'm sure it will be at one point, but is it going to be enough is what I'm starting to wonder here. You know, I thought this track would be pretty much spread out and littered with competitors by this point in the race, whether it be due to incident or conflict and contact, and that just hasn't seemed to happen or unfold the way that we thought it would. And,
Whoa!
You know, in fact, trouble there. Sarah Rabb was trying to get up to Lubenow, who crashes.
Wow, Sarah Rabb was piling on the pressure on Lubenow. Lubenow lost it off of turn 5, I think. Or turn 4, I'm sorry. And now there's a lot of traffic. He's going to have to try to get that car turned around with, and I'm sure he's just towed back. Wow. Yeah, let's get a replay of what happened there. That was intense.
So we mentioned that Lubenow was one of the few drivers to pick up positions in the top 10, was in 6th spot when the race started, up to 4th. Rabb about 2 car lengths back as they come to the right-hander, still holding steady. Rabb applying pressure, a clear 2 car lengths back. Lubenow just clipped the wall there with the left side. The car spun abruptly. Look at Rudebusch, able to avoid carnage for the 3rd race in a row. Probably saw his racing life flash before his eyes there as Lubenow's car was rolling backwards in front of him. Rudebusch able to avoid. He's going to go back to 5th after getting by cleanly, and heads-up driving, though, by Lubenow. Looked as though that he had a couple of moments where he thought maybe he could get back up and blend in the traffic, but watch this. How close was Mikkel Rudebusch to being involved in a crash for the 3rd race in a row?
Woo!
That close.
That is insane. You know, great heads-up from Rudebusch. I know Lubenow, he was just trying to get out of the way. You know, he wasn't trying to cause anything with that, but just wow. Let's see if I can get an onboard here with Lubenow. I don't know if he got the wall there. It looks like he did, and then ricocheted across the track, but I'm not entirely sure what had happened there.
and then was incredibly tempted to pull up in front of traffic. But as we said, you know, this portion of the running order, I mean, you have the bulk of the field pretty much from 5th all the way back to about, let's call it, you know, about 20th spot, covered by about 20 seconds or so on the racetrack. And when they're spaced out by about 1 to 2 seconds each, it's just a freight train of cars for the midfield. And Lubenow finally elected to give up the ghost to get the tow back. And looks as though he's still in the session, could get the car back out on the racetrack and hopefully overtake some of the drivers who've had some trouble up to this point. While other drivers are going to try to take advantage. That's going to propel Spencer Vick up into the top 10 for the first time all race long. We mentioned Vick, 11th in the championship points, highest of the amateur drivers in the field. And now we have Sarah Rabb on pit road. So this may be the first look at scheduled pit stops as we hit the 2/3 mark in this race. Sarah Rabb, one of the first to bite, and she is on the pit lane.
Yep, we continue to watch this battle that is now 8th on track, and we'll see where it cycles out after pit stops. But Wade Hayes and Spencer Vick, we talk about them in the midfield a lot, and they really have to be in it if they're going to get some top 10s, and some luck has fallen their way now where they are battling for top 10 positions. Now we'll see, of course, once again, where they cycle out with pit stops, but this could be some of the better finishes for Hayes and Vick today.
Yeah, a couple of drivers who are trying to further improve on their season thus far. And as you mentioned, we see them running about 8th, 9th, and 10th respectively as we ride on board with Curtis Jones. But we will see if this is an opportunity for them to further improve on their results. But pit strategy is going to be a big part of this. And now that Sarah Rabb is elected to come down and make her stop, we'll finally see where she shuffles out of the running order. Currently waiting for the timing and scoring to pick up. We see Rabb here on track back in 21st spot, but I think the big key is what she sees out the front windshield, and that is clear racetrack. It's an opportunity to let the tires come to temperature, lay down a couple of flyers, and maybe that's what she will need to try to close the deficit on some of the front runners who remain on the racetrack with 19 minutes to go.
And you know what? I didn't see an immediate response from Ruderbusch, at least, so maybe Ruderbusch is just going to run his car empty and, you know, pit for as little fuel as he can. I guess you're pitting for the same amount of fuel nonetheless. But so an immediate response from Ruderbusch was not a result out of that, and Ruderbusch is having a little trouble there connecting. He will stay in the session there. I was a little scared for Ruderbusch blinking down Strand Drive, but he'll stay in the session and is still under attack from Brennemer.
Now, we have seen in the past when it comes towards calculating the fuel loads that some of these drivers go into these races with an agenda. They know what their plan is as far as pit stops. We got a great battle going on here with Spencer Vick and Wade Hayes. Also, Curtis Jones in the mix. Might have had a little bit of door banging going on there between Vick and Hayes, as Vick's going to try to take the spot away from Hayes. Meanwhile, Webb just set the fastest lap of the race. No, Beats sets the fastest lap. First driver down in the 1-minute 28-second bracket. So, is this the attempted in-lap that we're seeing? Are these two on flyers to try to make sure that they can gap the field as much as possible before they elect to come down the pit lane with about 17 and a half minutes to go? But the point that I was about to make is if you did deviate from your pit strategy, you got to make sure that you've gone in and recalculated the fuel numbers. Most of these drivers have crew chiefs who are helping them out, and they are responsible for that obligation and task. But we've seen before where drivers switch up the strategy a little bit or perhaps click a little bit too far in some cases, and they run up a little bit short when they come down for the checkers. And we're about to see if these drivers have been able to time it perfectly and calculate it perfectly, as I bet we could expect these two to be on the pit lane here relatively shortly.
Chris Beats is absolutely flying around here. We saw they both set fastest laps in succession of one another, and I think this is because they are getting ready to pit, like you said, the in-lap. But most importantly, those fuel tanks are at the lightest they will be all race long. So the cars are light, which means that essentially you can run faster times. You can steer the car more into the corner without a big heavy weight in the back of the car, and they'll stay out another lap. But I think that's the biggest reason why we're seeing fastest laps this late into the race.
It looks as though Webb was able to respond. He did open up the deficit back up to 3 seconds that time through. Meanwhile, trying to take a look at some of the other drivers who have hit the pit lane already. Sarah Rabb continues to be mired down in 21st spot. A lot of these drivers going to be hitting the pit lane relatively late. Let's drop back here and look at Sven Hartman, who's trying to make up some ground in the running order. Hartman scored back in 11th, trying to crack the top 10 with Alexander King just ahead. These two trying to settle up a fight here as they approach the start-finish line, and they'll rush into turn 1 on the right-hand side. 16 minutes to go, and all eyes continue to be that on pit strategy. Pretty much we've only seen changes for position, about 2 passes throughout the top 10. Make that 3 if you want to count the moves on track that Jackson Lowry was able to make before incident that took place. And also we saw Chris Brunnemer pick up a few spots in the opening laps. He's now cycled his way up into 5th, thanks in part to some pit strategy. But how will things fare? Top 3 in the race, top 3 as they started. Same with Mikkel Rudebusch, who runs in 4th. And neither of those 4 has been on pit road, as has Brunnemer through your top 5.
Yeah, we continue on, and we're anxiously waiting to see when the leaders come. We're now reaching 15 minutes left in this race, and a lot of people still have yet to pit. I think when they do come into pit lane vote, it'll be everybody coming to pit lane. I think what's happening is, with it being a street course and you're being off the throttle so much, 70% fuel limit is almost enough to make it the whole way. I don't think it is. I think that there is a required pit stop, nonetheless. But they're going as late as they can, and this is really late. I don't know what I was expecting in terms of when the latest pit stop could be, but I don't know if I was thinking closer to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I really thought that we would start to see some of these drivers on the pit lane, which makes me wonder, Sarah Rabb, who came in, whether that was planned or not, or if that was the result of something that may have happened on track, because, you know, it looks as though everybody else is on the same bit of strategy here, and it has shaken up the running order ever so slightly, but we'll see how it pans out here. I believe Alexander King has elected to come down the pit lane, and yes, indeed, there he is. So this may be the time. The leaders now, they're going to have their next best opportunity to dive onto the pit lane here coming up relatively shortly. We're watching Jesse Webb come through the last few sets of right-handers, and this is where, yes, here he comes. So the time is now 13:45 to go, and Jesse Webb is going to hit the pit lane. And we'll see if everybody elects to follow him through. Chris Beets is going to stay out at least one more lap, but it's Webb who is the first to hit the pit lane for service. They got to hit the fuel number properly, and is he going to be able to blend out onto clean racetrack as the bulk of the field is going to be coming in the frame as he comes off the pit lane in what is turn 2 of this race course. Chris Brunnemer down into his pit stall as well. It looks as though Hansen and Rudebusch have stayed out, as has Jackson Lowry, and here comes Webb off the pit lane. He'll re-merge with the racing surface at turn 2.
Yeah, you can see, but there is some traffic ahead of him. Trevor Anderson, Jackson Lowry, they have yet to pit, but this could be a little bit of an effect on the advantage or disadvantage that Chris Beets is having right now in clean air. We'll see. I assume when he pits, if he pits at the last moment, he'll bring everybody else with him, like Hansen, Ritterbusch, Lowry, and Anderson. And Webb being behind them that lap could close that gap a little bit more when pit stops cycle out. Chris Beets continues his way around. This is through turn 11. We'll see if Beets heads his way into the pit lane this time. And with 12.5 minutes left, and a lot of the front runners still have yet to make pit stops, I'm at a loss of words. And here comes Chris Beets.
So now it is Chris Beets' turn to get onto the pit lane cleanly. He does so. It's a pretty difficult blend immediately with a harsh right-hand turn to get onto the pit lane. And officially, first lap of the day, that one of the front runners in Jesse Webb did not lead the last time through. It was Beets who had the lead at the stripe. This time, as they come to the line, Jackson Lowry is going to be credited with leading this lap at the stripe. Unofficially, though, as a matter of fact, last time through, it looks as though Beats may have beaten him to the line on the pit lane. So Lowry has cycled to the lead. Not sure if he will be credited with leading a lap there, but Beats is already off the pit lane and looks like he's closed up that gap a little bit there on Webb. That's the margin. It was 3 seconds before the pit stops, and he's now about 10 car lengths behind as they come through 3 and what's going to be the battle for the lead.
Yeah, he gained about a second off of that strategy right there, and Jesse Webb being in the dirty air a little bit longer. And now Chris Beats, he's back in Jesse Webb's dirty air, but that was still consistent with the clean air Chris Beats had. You see, it was over 3 seconds the gap, but it's now 1.9 seconds, and Beats could do something with that. He could find some momentum here and maybe put some pressure on Jesse Webb. We'll see what happens, but still out in front is Jackson Lowry, and this is quite a fuel stretch.
Lowry, Anderson, the last 2 cars to come down pit lane of the front runners. Everybody else, Webb, Beats, Hansen, Ruderbusch, Brunnemer. We also believe that Jimmy Allen had already come down the pit lane, as has Curtis Jones and Spencer Vick. Here comes Lowry. He's going to dive down onto the pit lane, right-hand side of the front stretch, and that should allow. Also looks as though Anderson's going to follow through. So here comes Webb. Here comes Beats. With 10 minutes to go, this is going to be another mano-a-mano shootout by the only 2 drivers to stand on the top step of the podium thus far this season, and Webb opened it up significantly that time. The lead is now showing about 2 seconds, but with the pit stops, there may be a few more lap cars sprinkled in amongst the leaders as we enter the latter stages of this race at Belle Isle.
And Jimmy Allen did not pit. He's in now to clear that up, so we'll see where he comes out. He's going to be coming out, I think, in the thick of a battle here on the front straightaway. I think Jimmy Allen may gain some spots with staying out as long as he did, so good on him. But yeah, lap traffic. This is 21st place driver John McClintock going a lap down. That means we're getting close to half the field being lapped, and Sarah Rabb is still in 18th position. So something went wrong with Sarah Rabb's strategy.
Yeah, we saw that Sarah Rabb was one of the first cars to come down the pit lane. However, not sure if something else may have happened or if there was some damage to that car at some point. It looks relatively clean from here. But it appears as though the result tonight is not going to be indicative of the performance that Sarah Rabb had put in. And we've seen a lot of instances as Gavin Cohn comes off the pit lane at about 20th spot as he heads up the straightaway to turn 3. But it appears as though that, Sarah Rabb, once again, despite having speed and being able to run up there at the front with some of the fastest drivers in the field, the result is not going to reflect the true performance. And Rabb is a driver who continues to find ways to get up there and run well, but bad luck plaguing that driver. And we hope to see things turn around for Sarah Rabb by the time we get to Spa 7 nights from now. Watching a battle here in a turn 1, but Webb and Beats continue to be the front 2, and it continues to be Webb opening up that margin ever so slightly. It appears as though Beats has gotten clear of the lap competitors, but Brunnemer not done with his charge forward. He's got his sights set on Mikel Ruderbusch for 4th as he tries to further climb his way up through the running order and climb his way up through the championship point standings. Brunnemer 7th in the points when this race started, looking for more and also looking for another spot on the racetrack.
I'll give it to Chris Brunnemer for sticking with Ruderbusch here, and I know that can be difficult with a car that is blinking. That can be very distracting, but Brunnemer has been able to keep with Ruderbusch and keep the pressure on despite maybe not seeing him for portions of the lap. And we'll see if that'll pay off for Brunnemer to keep toe-to-toe with Ruderbusch. He is really closing on Ruderbusch through 8, now through 9. We'll see if Hansen has any momentum as we get onto the longer straightaways here on this portion of the circuit.
Brunnemer on the throttle early there on corner exit, preparing for one of the right-handers. Brunnemer closes up again as they tap the brakes there through the right-hander. There is lap traffic ahead. This the battle for 4th, going on about 6 seconds behind the final spot on the podium that is currently held by that of James Hansen. Leaders all ready to turn 3. That's how far back this battle is taking shape as they are through turn number 1. It's Ruderbush and Brunnemer, 2 drivers trying to better results that they have had so far to kick off 2021 after being involved in incidents despite being ultra fast. But the lap traffic ahead may be a bit of a factor for these two as they try to settle it for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, oh man, it's gonna be difficult. I mean, it's part of racing. You know, you have to be there through the lap traffic. I think that's Gergis that's in front of him too. And Gergis, remember, he was up here. He had the pace to be up here, so that's gonna be even more difficult for these drivers to get around Gergis, who has, you know, pace to be up here. Just unfortunately had some incidents. He's still missing a hood on that Lamborghini, and they'll work their way past Gergis, so Gergis lets them through. But yeah, heartbreak for Gergis. I mean, you saw there, he had the pace to stay out in front of Ruderbush for a bit there, but the battle continues on for 4th, and I think this is Alan Roth just in front of the battle for 4th now.
We saw Roth go a few laps down early in this race. Indeed, that is Alan Roth, who was just up ahead of this battle for 4th, and I'm sure that once Ruderbush and Brunnemer get there, Roth is going to yield to that fight. And believe it or not, despite these two being trapped in lap traffic, they've gained about a second on Hansen, the 3rd place runner, but they may run out of time before this race is over. Here's a battle further back. That's Ryan Coulter, who's trying to get up around Peters, who holds down the 15th spot, and Sarah Rabb is trying to cycle her way back up towards a higher points-paying position. She's not that far behind them in 17th spot. With a lap car between the two of them, between her and Coulter, that is. So a lot of positions up for grabs in the latter stages of this one. So far, though, no pressure to Jesse Webb, who may be well on his way to becoming the first multi-time winner on the season. He also may be able to lay claim back up towards the top of the championship point standings after being 1 point shy of having that honor, as the series kicks up in a high gear with an endurance race in 1 week's time. But a difficult racetrack, won the pole by 0.3 of a second in qualifying. It appears as though the pit strategy matched the competition for the most part, only lost the lead, albeit momentarily, on the pit strategy, and has been able to navigate his way through lap traffic with relative ease. He's 4.5 minutes away from eventually seeing the white flag. A couple of more lap cars sprinkled in between him and his final destination, which may be a victory here in Detroit. But for right now, it is Webb heading into turn number 1, and that gap back to Beats continues to grow.
Yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal job from Jesse Webb today. Like we said, we have alluded to the difficulty of this track and the challenge that this series provides with how clean this race has been. I know now there's been a few individual incidents, but for the most part, very clean race. So the competition has stayed in contention, and then the competition is stacked through that midfield, and we saw Webb was under heavy pressure in the first quarter of this race. He since lagged his competition like Beats, Hansen, and company, but just once again, I think that speaks volumes to Jesse Webb's talent level in this series, and you know, coming into today with a 1 point difference between himself and Beats. That'll change a little bit leaving today's race. And it'll be looking pretty for Spa should things hold station the way they are.
Anytime you watch an NTT IndyCar Series event, wow, look at Brunnemer trying to close on Ruderbush. This is the battle for 4th. But anytime you watch an IndyCar Series event at Belle Isle or an IMSA sports car race at Belle Isle, everybody talks about how physical the track is. It is abrasive and bumpy like that of a Sebring, but it's got that tight confines like a street race in Toronto. And usually drivers end up walking away from Belle Isle running either one or the doubleheader race weekends that they've had in the past with blisters on the hands, sweat dripping from the brow, and perhaps a couple of rest days in store after a very physical contest around these tight confines on the Grand Prix of Belle Isle layout. I think even here on the sim platform, after turning in over an hour's time in practice, 20 minutes in qualifying, and now the 60-minute time to fair that we have here in the race, a lot of these drivers are going to be a bit worn out. This is some hard work to be doing even on the sim, and making sure that you're running on a razor's thin edge, not catching the wall, not hitting the curbs too hard, and also trying to respect your fellow competitors. I think that all these drivers have done a hard night's work. And fortunately for them, they're less than 2 minutes away from the checkered flag. But for some of them, they're not exactly complacent with where they're running. And Rudebusch and Brunnemer are a prime example of that as they go around a lap car. But Brunnemer's got to run. What could he do with it? Trying to size up Rudebusch here for a fourth spot. As Rudebusch enters the corner with his conventional line, Brunnemer catches the curb there on driver's right. They're going to come through turns 8, 9, and 10. And fourth place is still to be decided.
I mean, Brunnemer was all but on the bumper of Rudebusch coming into turn 7. I admire the fact that he didn't just send it down into turn 7, though. He respects Rudebusch and says he wants a... Well, what that tells me is he wants a clean pass if he's going to get 4 from Rudebusch. And, I mean, he's just still continuing to pile on the pressure. With 70 seconds left in this race, we'll see where they come out in relation to the leader if they get another lap in this battle. But this is gonna go to the wire for sure. Brunnemer is all but inside the Lamborghini of Rudebusch.
And don't look now, but they're catching Hansen as Brunnemer has a look. He's going to get on the blinders here. This is for fourth spot as they cut through 3, and Rudebusch overcooks the corner big time and keeps it off the tire barrier. But it's going to be Brunnemer to fourth, and they're catching Hansen at a rapid pace. I'm not sure if a lap and a half is going to be enough. If they get to the white flag, we'll have to see where Webb is going to be here, but they are catching Hansen quickly. Here's Webb, the leader. 24 seconds left to go on the clock. We'll see if he gets a white flag when we come back to the line. But if not, Hansen may be in trouble for that podium spot because Brunnemer is charging quickly.
Oh, wow. This is going to be close if we get another lap. I'm not going to call... Yeah, no, we're not going to get another lap, I don't think. Unless iRacing thinks differently. But time has expired. And... Yeah, it says final lap, so Jesse Webb is going to come to the line, and he will win at Detroit Belle Isle.
Second win of 2021. Chris Beets is going to have to settle for second. What a great run by the top 2 in the championship. Beets is going to celebrate that runner-up finish. And for Hansen, boy, I bet he's happy that one ended because Brunnemer was coming quickly in fourth. Hansen, though, who was up towards the front in the championship points. Hansen was fourth when the night started. John Wittendorf not in the field tonight. So Hansen is going to clearly be able to move up into the top 3 in the championship and grab himself a podium. But nobody had anything for Jesse Webb, who's going to burn it down there in the runoff in turn 3, a point in which he was able to get a lot of his work done, and mastered the pit strategy, mastered the pit stops, and he's going to nose it into the fence while celebrating yet another victory.
Yeah, an absolutely great job from Jesse Webb. I mean, what a race. Another very dominating performance from Jesse Webb, and it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say about this one. It looked much tightly contested in the first quarter of this race, like I said earlier, and then he started to lag his competition. It was what a race for Jesse Webb.
What a great job by Webb, as we mentioned, came into this race 1 point out of the championship. He's going to take back hold of the championship point lead. 3 races, 3 different times the points lead has changed hands. We're going to have a chance to talk to our winner, Jesse Webb, the second time in 2021, and all of our top running finishers when we come back here on Pit Stop TV from the virtual Belle Isle Circuit in Detroit, as we just wrapped up round 3 of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. We'll see you on the other side back in a moment.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Back at the virtual Grand Prix of Belle Isle layout here on Pit Stop TV, where we just wrapped up the third race of 10 in the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV. And we just saw Jesse Webb capture yet another victory on the season, his second of the 3 races, and it will unofficially put him back atop the championship point standings as the series is set to embark on their first endurance race on the calendar. But he's got some time to celebrate some success here after grabbing yet another victory. It is that time in our production broadcast. We're going to welcome in our top running finishers. We are going to start at the top step of the podium, and a driver who caught everybody's attention right off the jump, not only in practice, but in qualifying as well. At this time, we'd like to welcome in our winner from tonight here in Belle Isle, Jesse Webb, into the broadcast booth. And it's nice to have Jesse Webb here for the second time this season after capturing top honors and victory. And Jesse, I must say that when you lay claim to the pole by over 0.3 of a second, I think it caught everybody by surprise. I mean, we'll start there. Qualifying, that lap being that far ahead of a field this competitive and this stout, was that your first indication that you did your homework and you came prepared to put down the dominating performance that you did? Was qualifying pretty much the last boost of confidence you needed going into this race?
Well, I knew qualifying was very important for this race because it's hard to get by anybody here because you have hardly any track to use. So qualifying up ahead and in first, being able to set the pace off the start and go when I want really helps out the fact that you can hold first and let the other guys behind battle and kind of bunch up. So I knew then qualifying 0.3 ahead, I had the pace to hold the lead, but I also didn't know how lap traffic was going to be and everything else, which I honestly have to give a big thanks to the lap traffic because they were really good and they were predictable and good letting us pass. So thanks to them.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I think coming into this race, we all were under the impression that this was going to be a bit chaotic. I, for one, thought that street race, sports cars, we're going to have contact, we're going to have lap traffic, everybody's going to be in the way. Was there a level of anxiety for you, even though you've proven to be one of the contenders coming into this race, knowing that this is, compared to the other tracks, a bit of a wild card?
Yeah, 100%. I had a guess. I thought one of the top three was gonna get like just come around a corner and there would be like a car spun and you just because like every corner here is like a blind corner. You can't really see what's coming up until you're there. So one person who is spun and is just trying to get their car facing back the right way can be kind of catastrophic when you have a train of cars coming through and they don't have time to hit the brakes and they all scatter and it can cause just mayhem. So coming into this, I was a little nervous that there was going to be issues with that, but overall, it was really good.
Now we get through the cycle of pit stops, and once that was done, the lead that you had that was at one point in excess of 3 seconds was kicked down to 1 second in the latter stages. Was there any concern in your car, wondering if in fact Beats was going to be able to close up that gap and challenge you for the victory, or was that all part of the plan, electing to pit when you did and coming out where you did?
No, it wasn't. I was hoping to go as long as I could, but I didn't know Beats actually he had enough fuel for another lap. I could have probably squeaked one in, but I really didn't want to risk it. But Beats seems like he's really good in the pit lane, and it's something I need to improve on if I want to be staying ahead of him. Uh, it got me a little nervous seeing him only 1 second, 1 and a bit seconds behind me. I think it was like 1.6 or 1.7. I was a little nervous because knowing one slip up and he's right there because he's a very consistent and fast driver. And I know he doesn't make very many mistakes. So just knowing missing one apex, I could have screwed myself. So looking to improve for the pit stops in the future.
2 for 3 on the season thus far. The series is going to be heading into one of their special races on the calendar, one of the extra distance races, going to be at Belgium at Spa. What are your thoughts heading into there and having to deal with all that that track has to offer, particularly that uphill climb through a Rouge that has caught so many off guard? However, you've been able to master two of these very tough tracks so far. What's your confidence when it comes to Spa?
Personally, I like Spa. It's actually one of my favorite tracks. It seems to flow well with me, and I've done a little bit of GT3 racing there, so I have prior experience, not going in blind. This track, I had no experience racing here, and I just bought it after the race at Road America. So feeling, I don't want to say comfortable, but more comfortable than I was coming into this race.
Probably one of the last things your competition wants to hear after how you've been performing so far. Jesse, before we let you go, we just want to give you one opportunity. Who helps make this possible for you? Friends, family, sponsors, supporters? Who do you have to thank for your second win of the season?
My mom and my dad, everybody at PSM for pushing each other and pushing everybody to go quick, and my sponsor SureFit.
A true dominating performance and one of the toughest tracks we will see on the 10-race slate. Jesse Webb, congratulations on your second win of the season, this one coming at Belle Isle. Good job, my friend.
Thank you.
And again, that is Jesse Webb. And now we'll turn it over to Emerson Arden, who is with our runner-up on the night.
All right, and yeah, we're joined with second place finisher Chris Beats. And Chris, I know second isn't preferred. Did you have anything for Jesse Webb today? It looked like you did in the early going.
I did. I felt like I had the pace. I really kind of messed up on my final lap to get pole. I was up a couple tenths. I had it, kind of bent it in the second to last corner. But that's this track. It's so narrow, and any mistake, it kind of reminds you of what if the head of Chevy can crash his Corvette out here, then I mean, in the sim racing world, it's pretty easy to kind of clip a wall and ruin your car. Um, but yeah, the damage that I got earlier on didn't help, and I seemed to get caught up by lap traffic. It seemed like at all the wrong times.
Well, speaking of lap traffic, I know that's one of many challenges of the track today. Talk to us about how you felt about today's race and maybe on how difficult it was at such a tight and technical track, a street course, and then lap traffic as it was. Talk to us about all the challenges you encountered today.
Um, well, following Jesse at the beginning, there was tons of understeer. The aero wash that iRacing's kind of introduced is definitely pretty realistic. And if you get too close and you get too greedy, It'll push your car wide. And the lap traffic's getting better. I think they understand if they hold their line, that we'll eventually get the run and put the car in a position that compromises our lap versus compromising theirs. And with that, it's more predictable. And but still, if you get caught at the wrong time on the track, it hurts you. And I was losing half a second here, half a second there with lap traffic, whereas Jesse seemed to catch it on the right spot.
Well, the only street course on the season, that is now over. Next week, though, endurance race, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. How are you feeling?
Tell you the truth, I don't know. It's not a race that we're going to practice this week. It's not in the VRS series, with it being a special event. Man, we haven't raced it for over a month, so trying to fine tune the couple tenths that you need is going to be interesting. Most of the top 10 here today are going to be racing in Daytona 24 this coming weekend, and that's where our focus is going to shift. So you'll really see who practices and who doesn't come Monday.
Fair enough. All right. Well, who do you have to thank for your second place finish here today at Detroit?
As always, PSM. We always practice together, and it seems like we're making waves up here at the top. And Skull Sim Gear always. The yellow flag went a couple times during that with the I flag, and of course my wife for supporting me with all this cool video game stuff that I got.
Fair enough. It is a pretty cool thing you get to do each week. So congratulations on your second place finish. Best luck to you if you're running the iRacing 24, and best luck to you next week at Spa.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for putting this together.
Right on. And that was second place finisher Chris Beats, and now we're going to send it back to Eric Brennan, who's standing by with our third place finisher James Hansen.
Hi.
Thanks a lot, Emerson. James Hansen, welcome to the broadcast booth. Happy to be able to talk to you after what's been a strong start to the season. You had a pair of top 10s coming into this race. First time on the podium in the 2021 stint of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And to do it at Belle Isle, this has got to be something that you're happy about, as you're staying right there in the mix with some of these drivers we were keeping our eye on. And you're proving that veteran prowess is one of the few returning drivers from last season who's, putting the results together. How do you feel after getting third at a track as tough as Detroit?
I'm really happy. I was pretty happy to snipe the third place start literally on my last lap, and then to make it count and keep the car clean through the race. Pretty happy. I really like this track.
I feel like we don't hear that many people say they really like the track. Granted, it's fun, it's challenging, and it's certainly is able to prove who has these cars figured out. But for you, as someone who came in this with a positive attitude, do you think that played a role in your success in qualifying and then parlaying that into a third place finish in the race?
I like it when you have to race the track as well. I like Nürburgring. I like Bathurst. As fun as tracks like Barcelona and those kinds of things are fun, and how nice and smooth they are. Sometimes it's fun to fight the road in addition to the other cars. So yeah, I'm happy. I had a good attitude coming in. I just wanted to enjoy it. I got good results.
It seemed like, depending on where you were in the latter stages of the race, lap traffic was either not a factor or was hindering some drivers. I know late in the going, Chris Brunnemer was closing quickly as the laps began to click off. Was that a product of lap traffic? Were you aware of how quickly Brunnemer may have been chasing you down for that third spot, or did you feel that the buffer that you had back to him was enough to last due to the checkers?
Did he finish fourth?
Yes.
I didn't even realize that. When I last checked, I saw Michael behind me, and mostly after I realized that I wasn't going to catch Beats, I was mostly just managing my pace to get to the end. So I was keeping an eye on the delta behind me, but I didn't realize it was Chris at the end.
Well, 8th at Donington, 5th at Road America, 3rd here in Detroit. We're heading to Belgium next week at Spa. It looks as though the results are projecting upwards. I know the top 2 in points have been trading wins here, but are you confident you're going to be cracking the winner's circle here relatively soon? Because you're heading that way according to the stat sheet.
Spa is not my favorite track or my best track, but we'll see. I got the Daytona 24 to worry about before I get to there.
Yeah, that seems to be the focus of a lot of competitors. And James, before we let you go and fully turn your attention to the Daytona 24 that's up ahead for you, just want to say, a lot of people do a lot of things, to make this happen, whether it be family, friends, sponsors, supporters. Who do you have to thank for this solid results here, the third race in of 2021?
I'd like to thank my team, PSM, my wife for giving me the space to let it happen, and my cats, Sophie and Gigi.
Always have to thank the cats, my friend. I'm exactly right there with you. James, best of luck in the 24 hours, and we will talk to you next week, hopefully.
Thank you. Hopefully.
All right, and that is James Hansen, our third place finisher, who, according to my math, which is not always the best, should be able to get up to third place in the championship standings when all's said and done. But the people at the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series are going to be crunching the calculators to get us all set for our first endurance race on the calendar. That'll be round 4 at Spa-Francorchamps in 1 week's time. And, of course, you can see that here on Pit Stop TV. Emerson, what a race. I don't think this thing unfolded the way that anybody thought it would, especially judging by the conversations we have with our top 3 finishers. I think we expected a bit of chaos, a little bit of uncertainty, maybe a few different results or a different driver in victory lane, and it turned out it was more of the same. Our podium finishers all in the top 5 in points coming into the night. We had a repeat winner for the first time on the calendar, and Belle Isle didn't disappoint, but I don't think it lived up to the uncertainty and carnage that we thought, with it being a variable of a street circuit, as we had in our pre-production meeting.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, I expected an absolute destruction on lap 1, honestly, just because of how difficult the track is. These drivers have definitely proved me wrong, and as they should, they've upped the standards for the series, and it has definitely proved in the quality of racing we get up and down the running order. I'm always clicking through battles, and there's different battles for different positions up and down the running order, especially through the top 20. Just anywhere you can almost always expect the battle. And with Detroit, with it being so hard to pass, these battles, they lingered, and maybe the car behind was faster but didn't want to make a dirty overtake, and that just kept adding action and adding meaning into each position and to each battle, because the longer you stayed behind one car that was maybe holding you up, the less time you had to try to catch the car ahead of you that you may or may not be faster than. And it was just a very intriguing race, a very fun race. Intriguing in the sense that we also went down to about 12 minutes before we had our final pit stops. So many things happened. I'd say the street course is the outlier on the schedule as it is. This race, at least in the first 3 races, looks like a big outlier in itself. But yeah, I don't know what we can expect next week at Spa.
Well, before we turn our attention there, let's put a bow on this baby and take a look at the results as they came to the line here tonight with Jesse Webb, Chris Beach, James Hansen, your podium finishers. We heard from them earlier, some of them turning their attention to the 24 hours of Daytona, but all of them will be turning their attention to, as Emerson just mentioned, the next race, which will be at Spa. First endurance race on the slate. Chris Brunnemer continuing to try to dig himself out of the hole that he was buried in after the crash at Donington Park. Strong fourth, and Mikel Rudebush finally gets the result that backs up the pace he's shown all year long. First top 5 of the season for Rudebush. I bet he's elated about that. Jackson Lowry, 6th. Trevor Anderson, 7th. Curtis Jones, who was top 5 in the points. Top 10 finish tonight here in 8th. Spencer Vick, one of the amateurs in the field, in 9th. And Tyler Campo quietly up to the top 10 late in the going and is able to celebrate a top 10 finish for the first time this season.
Yeah, good on him. We file back now to the next 10, and it's Wade Hayes holding on to the 11th position with a hard-charging Jimmy Allen there in 12th with his differing strategy to go as long as he could. He was able to make up some spots. He'll place himself right in the heart of that. Sven Hartman, 13th. Corey Peters, another 10 seconds back. He'll be 14th. We'll find Ryan Coulter a minute 4 back, 15th. Alexander King also in that mix for 16th. Mick Blue, 17th. BC Voigt, 18th. Sarah Rabb with a heartbreaking type of performance today after qualifying in the top 5. 19th was not indicative of her pace. She'll come home 19th. And 20th place, Gavin Cohn, 1 minute 22 seconds off the pace.
21st, John McClintock, while David Flanagan was in 22nd spot. Patrick Herring in 23rd. Now we get back to some of the cars who were more than one lap down in the running order, like Randall Ayers, who was 24th. Jason Frisk, who stayed out of trouble throughout most of the night, in 25th. George Takek in the 26th spot. Alan Roth, despite having to come to the pit lane for a few laps, was in 27. Christian Gerges, who was involved in an accident very early in the going, we're running top 10. Heartbreaking run for Gerges, who had to settle for 28th spot. Brady Lubenow also crashed while running in the top 5, 29th, and Scott Snyder back to 30th. And the rest of the field of our 34 cars will see Tyler Langberg at 31st, Justin Mikhaila 32nd, Alex Trevor 33rd, and Michael Della Sala was shotgun on the field. I want to correct something I just said a couple of moments ago. Tyler Campbell, I mentioned it was his first top 10 of the season. I misspoke. It was actually his second because he came across the line 8th at Road America. Nothing but the facts here on Pit Stop TV. So wanted to correct that one before we go off air. Also, before we go off air, I want to give off one more final shout out to our presenting sponsors here on Pit Stop TV. And we'll start it off with our friends at the Sound of Art in Tucson. Remember, your picture, your music. A lot of these drivers preparing for the 24 Hours of Daytona, if they want to grab their sim racing vehicle, want to grab a picture of the friend and loved one, or James Hansen may want to get a couple of pictures of his friendly pets that he gave a shout out to. I know that's something I want to explore myself for the home. You can take whatever picture you would like. Head on over to Tucson Sound Art or use the website TucsonSoundArt.com. Provide an image. They'll build a beautiful custom canvas with a Bluetooth speaker built into it. That way you can have whatever picture you would like, playing whatever sound of audio you would like, whether it be music, your favorite podcast, or even if you want to sync up your phone or computer to play out some Bluetooth audio of a Pit Stop TV broadcast. All you have to do is head on over to TucsonSoundArt.com for more information. And do not forget to use the promo code PitStopTV, all one word, for 10% off your purchase. Again, that's Tucson Sound Art, TucsonSoundArt.com. We also want to thank Permanent Makeup in Maine, because when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, with the owner, Ashley Bullier, a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. I mentioned in the broadcast that my wife and I are getting ready for our wedding reception, and these are actually some options that she's starting to look towards because she wants to look her best on her best day. But the truth is, you should look best on any day. And Permanent Makeup in Maine is going to make that possible for you. If you're a little bit weary, want to learn more, no worries. They have a website that you can visit, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, all mushed together in one word, or head on over to their Facebook page, not only so that way you could pick up some more information about their products and services, but they do have monthly giveaways. And if you enter today, you just might be able to win one. Again, that's permanentmakeupinmaine.com, permanentmakeupinmaine.com. And lastly, Whiplash Media, the parent organization for Pit Stop TV and the platform that has been bringing you coverage of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. We mentioned if you wanted to learn all that you needed to about a pre-race lead-in, Trey Shuttlesworth, who was handling our socials tonight, wrote a beautiful press release and lead-in to tonight's racing coverage, and that is exactly the type of content you can expect to see on Whiplash Media. But it doesn't stop there. As a matter of fact, their involvement in sim racing handles everything from paint schemes, stream overlays, all the beautiful scenery and camera packs that you saw tonight at the Belle Isle circuit, as well as so much more assets that they have for the sim racing world and also for the real racing world, whether it be photography services, social media management, or PR. It's all available at whiplash-media.com. And lastly, before we go off the air, we also want to extend an additional shout out to Benke Cinematography, Liveries by Sarah Rabb, and Tam Livery for their involvement, sponsorship, and support of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series for 2021. Well, Emerson, it's a little bit late here on the East Coast, just past midnight, as a matter of fact. So I want to wish everybody a happy Tuesday, January 19th, if you're on my side of the country. But I'm already starting to do some homework for our first endurance race on the calendar at Spa-Francorchamps in 1 week's time. Can't imagine what we're going to see. And judging by the nature of the competition we saw tonight here on a track as tough as Belle Isle, I think we're in for a treat in about 6 days' time, according to my watch. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season here.
Sorry, most definitely, for sure. Yeah, the endurance race at Spa, that's going to be interesting. I'm especially interested as a lot of drivers are, of course, putting their most of their resources into the Daytona 24. That's upcoming weekend, and maybe they don't practice as much, especially with the VRS series not being at Spa. It was at Spa, I think, week 1 of the of this season of iRacing. Wow, I was at a loss for words there. So Spa was ran in the VRS series quite a little ways ago, and a lot of drivers focusing on Daytona. We might get a different race at Spa.
Some of the things to look forward to, a few more things to look forward to on the platform. Tomorrow night or tonight, depending on where you are, Tuesday night, Operation E Motorsport, race number 1 at Daytona. That's going to be on the platform on Pit Stop TV tomorrow night. Wednesday night, the Bluegrass iRacing Series, race number 8 at the iconic North Wilkesboro. Friday night, LTAC at Atlanta, their 4th race of 2021. And then next Monday, another Monday night doubleheader on Pit Stop TV. You're going to get your dirt racing fill with the BRP iRacing Series, their 3rd race of the season at Eldora. And then we'll be right back here with the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, race number 4 in the season at Spa. We're going to do a little bit of overtime there. We expect that race to be a little bit longer, and certainly it is going to provide more strategy for us to follow and bring to you. Also want to extend one more thank you to my incredible team here tonight. Emerson Arden, who not only was the other voice that you heard, but he was pulling double duty in the production truck as well. I cannot tell you how difficult that is. Emerson, great job tonight, my friend. Always a pleasure working with you. And Trey Shuttlesworth, not only for what he did to help us prep for this event, but everything he did to keep all the masses out and aware and up to date on how everything was unfolding on our socials. And that is the best place to stay on task as to all that is coming on Pit Stop TV. Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, it's all out there for Pit Stop TV. On behalf of everybody on the network and platform, my announcing partner, Emerson Arden, Trey Shuttlesworth, I'm Eric Brennan. We'll see you all next week with more coverage of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, only on Pit Stop TV. Good night, everybody.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine you're wedding picture, upload it onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.